Hey guys, welcome back to Bleav in Eagles. I'm your host, Leigh, and today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online betting. Personally, me, it's Thursday. I'm doing a big Thursday night football parlay. I will put that on my Instagram at @lmayock. It's Broncos and Saints, so that should be fun. But just head over to betonline.com and do some gambling with me. Good times. But focus is today. It's NFL Week 7, and the Eagles are taking on the Giants at MetLife on Sunday. And we have got the New York Daily News' longtime Giants beat writer here with us, Pat Leonard. Welcome to the show. You might know him from Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard on Bleav Network. You might know him from the Giants beat, but mainly most people, I think, Pat, they know you from your tunnel fits.
I appreciate that, Leigh. That's my favorite part of Sundays.
I mean, they are getting pretty popular.
You know, it's so funny. I was in Cleveland in week 3, I think it was, and we were videoing the player arrivals, and I see a Cleveland Browns reporter off in a hallway to my left doing their walk and having somebody video them and then not liking the first version, walking back and doing it again. I'm like, I think this is catching on here.
They made someone do a retake.
Yep. Well, they did it themselves. I've done 2 different versions before. Actually, interesting thing is this week, I'm still pretending like I'm an athlete. I play men's basketball, hurt my calf this week. So I may be limping through it this week. It could create a little bit of a wrinkle. You know, I don't know how
does that affect the shoes that you'll wear?
That's a really good question. See, these are all the details that nobody thinks about. All they see is the final product. You know what I mean?
No. And honestly, guys, if you don't know what we're talking about, which would be crazy because Pat's videos are really taking over the internet, we have something to show you. This is a surprise to Pat. Let me see if I can get this working correctly. But these are his tunnel fits. Let's see. Pat, can you see this on your screen?
I can.
Here we go. This is an up. You're a fan of the point and clap. We love to see it. Oh, we have the jacket on here. Where was this? Purple. Lavender's a good color on you.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
Clap and point and clap. Here we go. Are you pointing at somebody?
Yeah, I have. I'm pointing at the fans. I'm pointing at NFL Sunday. This is the vibes. It's the energy, right? It started actually, Leigh, with it's good FaceTime standing outside the locker room as the players are coming in pregame, players and coaches, just another way to kind of interact, see people, and it's a different element. Also, the players like being videoed themselves. They have their fits. And Sal Loretta's is a men's fashion place out here in northern New Jersey that outfits me. And so the running joke is no one cares about me. Everybody wants to see Malik Neighbors and Isaiah Simmons and Deonte Banks and Dexter Lawrence and Daniel Jones. So I make sure that I do my own walk and I put myself front and center. So
I would have to disagree because at this point I really am looking for your look. I think you're right up there with them.
Yes,
I mean, and how do you did the point and clap just come naturally to you, or is that how'd you think of your little walk, your catwalk?
Yeah. So as I started doing that, some of the other reporters have joined me. Charlotte Carroll from The Athletic, Connor Hughes from SNY, Jordan Rano from ESPN's been down there the whole time too. And you kind of work through it. You work through what works for you. Some people like to do the no look, right? Pretending the camera's not there, almost like you're on the catwalk, like Tyrod Taylor, who was on the Giants the last 2 seasons and is now on the Jets. He's the gold standard. Okay. He's the Fashion Week in his future. I think he's already honestly walked in Fashion Week.
He's like the Joe Burrow.
Exactly. But I'm not that cool. You know what I mean? So I have to figure out something that works. So I've tried the no look. I've tried overly strutting. I've tried, there's all these things that they're just not me. But I think like the vibes and the just natural kind of excitement for NFL game day works. Little cheesy, but you still look good enough that no one's focused on you being corny. You know what I mean?
No, it's not cheesy. And your outfits are so on point, very sharp. And now, I'm just a little bit worried about the calf injury, what you're going to do with that, but we will all be tuned in and we can't wait.
Thank you. Yes, I'm a little concerned too, but I'm sitting out tonight's game, so I'll be ready for Sunday. So that's
there you go. That's so smart of you. What is it? Rice, rest, ice, Compression
Yeah.
and elevation, just work on
Compression,
that.
elevation, ice. Exactly. Yeah. I might keep the clock at the game tonight, but I'm not playing.
So there we go. That's very smart of you. It'll probably be hard though.
Oh, it's going to
Roll
be
back.
I'm a competitor, on NFL Sunday mornings doing these walks.
Do you guys do you know the team you're against tonight? Like, is that going to be hard without you? Are they going to struggle without you?
It's gonna be tough. I mean, listen, I'm the vibes energy guy. I go
You're the
in.
personality hire.
I go in, and for 3 minutes, I bite at the ankles, and I make life a living hell for the person I'm guarding, and maybe throw in like an Eric Snow type bucket if anybody listening.
Okay, Eric Snow. Yes.
Eric Snow.
Wow.
That
sounds like you're from Philadelphia.
Oh, 100% from Northeast Philadelphia, Fox Chase, across from Burholm Park, Cotman and Central. That's
Love
that's
that.
my old digs. Yep.
Love that. So you're one of us.
Right.
Which actually brings me, I was talking to my dad and he told me that you had interviewed him a bunch of times. There's a bunch of connections all around. And I asked if he had any tea, but he only had nice things to say about you. So it's really not an interesting conversation. But he reminded me that the Giants just 2 years ago won a wild card game in Minnesota versus the Vikings.
Yep.
And that blew my mind just because just the fall off, I guess, last year. And then bringing you guys into the off season where the big conversation was obviously Saquon and Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
So my dad, when he was with the Vikings, they had the regular season of Hard Knocks, which was like a beast of its own. A lot goes into it. And he was a new GM with a relatively new head coach. It was just a lot. I couldn't imagine what Hard Knocks was like in the off season with all of that going on in the Giants building. Were you there?
Well, the cameras were around more when we were not in the building as the media. It was more, now they were around, NFL Combine, but again, they kind of got into these rooms that we weren't privy to. So that's what's so interesting about that is we're working so hard to get, usually year in and year out, you're getting that information, kind of trickling out, a leak here, a conversation there, a rumor here. But we had cameras on Brian Daboll interviewing Jaden Daniels, right? And you could see how much they like certain prospect. I revere your father, by the way. I revere his ability and his work ethic, especially. Like, I think, when he was on television and also during his time working in football, I think one thing that he always demonstrated is the amount of work that you do and then how that informs the decision you make. Like, you can tell, Leigh, when someone is making a decision that is based on a philosophy and information and hard work, and when it's based on a seat of your pants feeling. And now listen, sometimes the second one can work out, but I thought watching the Giants, like you alluded to, how did they fall from that playoff win in Minnesota? I thought watching Hard Knocks, there were conversations that occurred in those rooms that I'm sure, and we talked to them a little bit, there were some of those they didn't want out there. They felt like more feeling conversations and preference conversations than grounded in the work conversations and opinions. And I think that that's what makes this game so interesting and so much of, I'm calling Sunday Judgment Day because the Saquon Barkley decision and the Eagles-Giants hatred and rivalry, like it's all tied up into Brian Daboll, Nick Sirianni, Saquon Barkley, and the trajectory of the two franchises. And also that ultimate decision, the moment, you know what I'm talking about, the line of Hard Knocks when John Mara says, I'm going to have a hard time sleeping tonight.
He apparently has been having a hard time sleeping all season because that's how it's been. That is brutal. I get what you're saying. So it's interesting. I feel like the big questions around both teams right now are around their head coaches.
Yes.
And the decisions that they've been making. Philly Talk News Radio all week has been up in arms about Nick Sirianni's actions with the fans, and then bringing his kids to the presser to kind of avoid any hard type of conversation. What is the general feeling around the Giants head coach and the decisions that he's been making from the offseason until now?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're right. This game is a referendum on both of these coaches in large part, and the season is as well. Daboll, I think in year one, the tandem of him and Wink Martindale, the previous defensive coordinator, they every week were just crafting game plans to attack that week. And the offense they were essentially, Daboll was coaching away from their weaknesses and into their strengths. So they were kind of either boring or run-based and not pushing the ball, but they were doing what it took to win.
Right.
And they were able to kind of get them across the finish line. Last year, offensively, it all came down. It all caved in. The defense was actually tied for the league lead in turnovers forced with the Baltimore Ravens with 31, but it wasn't enough. And Daboll's offense really, and injuries as well, undercut the whole operation. And so now you're in a position where you re-signed Daniel Jones instead of moving off of him. And
paid him some money. Yep.
Oh, they gave him a lot. 4 years, $160 million. And you and I also saw them try to, but failed to go get the quarterback that they wanted to replace Daniel Jones in the offseason. And so Daboll's in a position where the pressure is all on him because he has taken play calling away full time now after yo-yoing it back and forth from Mike Kafka last year. He now has play calling on his plate full time. He has Daniel Jones, who he's trying to validate for the Mara and Tisch families and ownership that he is the guy that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll gave $40 million a year. And he also has to prove that there's a developmental trajectory on a young team while also winning games. It's a very difficult situation for him to be in, but it's the life he's chosen, as I always say in this business, right? And I think ultimately the view on the Giants from the fan base right now is that the quarterback's the problem. That's how the fans think.
Okay.
I Bleav that Daboll he's not under maybe as much pressure as Sirianni is this week, but I do think he's under the same amount of pressure this season, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes complete sense. And there are so many similarities just in terms of the quarterback situations, play calling, head coach taking over, offensive coordinator taking over, what's going on, where's the actual problem, where's the disconnect. And the crazy part that the other thing I was thinking about too, I feel like it's been like a sneaky time for the Giants because the Jets have been taking over the news, the mainstream news now for weeks, right? So the Giants have just kind of been there.
They can't help themselves, the Jets.
They can't help themselves. But I was looking at the Giants' record. They beat Seattle, and then they actually hung in it with the Bengals. And the NFC East is wide open because it's just a crapshoot right now. So and the games that they've lost have been pretty much like plus or minus a touchdown away. They haven't been that far off. And we're talking about a team that won a playoff game 2 years ago. So to me, that actually looks kind of optimistic.
Yeah. Their defense has been much better than expected with Martindale leaving. Shane Bowen comes in from Tennessee. I will raise my hand and say, I did not expect their defense to be this good, to the point where they're holding Cincinnati to 17 points. And really, that was with a late touchdown at the end.
Yeah.
And like you said, Seattle, that was impressive too. I mean, that's why they just really need a result here and in these next couple of weeks with the Eagles, Steelers, Commanders, and Panthers before their bye week.
Yeah.
Because Leigh, the turn here is so interesting. Like if they win this game, to your point, the Eagles fall to 3-3, the Giants improve to 3-4. The Cowboys not only are 3-3 with a bye, but I mean, what frauds are they after that game they put on the field at AT&T Stadium against the Detroit Lions? And now maybe you play Washington again, you can win that. And hey, we can win the division if you're the Giants. That's how you can think. But if you lose this game, I know it's only one game, but listen to these stats. You lose this game, the Giants would fall to 0-3 in the division. They would fall to 0-4 at home this year. They would fall to 1-10-0 against the Eagles and Cowboys head-to-head in Shane and Daboll's 3 years. So
those are crazy stats, Pat.
Yeah, it's like it's such an interesting league. This is why the NFL is so great and why it's hard to look away is because yes, it's only one game, but the swing in a win or a loss here for Daboll and Shane is massive. It is the difference between what you said. Hey, this actually looks like it's not as bad as the record versus, man, this team can't score any points and they're losing way too many games again.
And it seems like it's going to be a lot tougher now with Andrew Thomas out. So what's the plan there? What are they going to do?
Yeah. So again, a great kind of two-headed argument here on how Shane has done, let's say, as a general manager. On the one hand, after not some great draft picks on the offensive line in the first couple of years or some flat out bad ones, he goes out and spends Jermaine Illuminor, right tackle, Greg Van Roten, right guard, John Runyon Jr., a guy who works out in the offseason with the Eagles, Lane Johnson down in South
Yeah.
Jersey,
Buds,
and who the
yep.
Eagles fans know well, right? So he's left guard. You got a center, John Michael Schmitz, a draft pick. Andrew Thomas was the franchise left tackle.
Yep.
With him out, so with him there, they started those front five in the first 6 games, played 419 consecutive snaps together. They played 100% of the Giants' offensive snaps through the first 6 games. That's the good news.
Yep.
The bad news is with Thomas out, Leigh, the Giants had in February, they had a well-documented, I remember talking to Brian Baldinger about this, they needed a swing tackle. They needed a guy who, if Thomas went down again, like last year, when he went down last season, the offense couldn't get going, and Daniel Jones, the whole process speeds up because he doesn't trust his protection. Now we're in the same spot again. And Leigh, would you believe it if I told you that they have the same backups as the primary reserves to Andrew Thomas that they did last year?
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Azudu is a guy who's a 3rd-round pick of 2022. He's the first man up. So unless they move Illuminor over from the right side, which Jermaine does not want, it looks like it's going to be Josh Azudu.
Okay. So I like Illuminor. He was with the Raiders when my family was there. I think he's a hard worker. I appreciate that. He works his butt off. But that's a tough situation to be in.
Oh, extremely tough. And, the thing the Giants are hanging their hat on is that last year, Daniel Jones, when Josh Azudu was playing left tackle in, I think it was week 5 in Miami, that was the game that Josh got beat around the edge and Daniel Jones took a huge hit and hurt his neck for the 2nd time in his career, and he missed 3 games. Now, the Giants are hanging their hat on the fact that last year they started Josh Azudu where they had drafted him, which was at guard 2 years ago. They were rotating him at guard in training camp, and then right at the start of the season, they moved him to tackle. And so they really didn't have a lot of developmental work at that position when they thrust him in there. So this year, they feel like they have a year under his belt. Now with a new offensive line coach, Carmen Brasillo, who came from the Raiders, they feel like that's the reason why Josh will take a step forward. But, time will tell. I mean,
we don't know yet. Yeah, proof is in the pudding. But and speaking of Daniel Jones again, because I wanted to get into this, I'm very curious. I know you said that the fans right now, the fan base think Daniel Jones is the problem. It's a quarterback issue. What are his stats saying, though? What's the actual offense saying?
So his home and road splits are extremely concerning right now. That's what everyone's focusing on, and for good reason. I mean, he has 6 touchdown passes and no interceptions on the road, and 0 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions at home.
Does someone just needs to sage MetLife? I think that's all they need.
Right.
Maybe after the Eagles game, but
yeah, exactly. Well, here's the interesting thing about this is, 2 things. Number one, the organization, in my opinion, I know they paid Daniel, but now this year and this offseason, they made very clear, the Giants did, that even though they were going to run it back one more time with Daniel, that they were looking to find his replacement. And Daniel Jones himself is on the record saying, like, I didn't exactly appreciate that. I didn't love watching the draft, thinking that there was a possibility they were going to draft a guy. So he has a chip on his shoulder, also has an understanding, though, that, listen, my days here could be numbered, and the organization has kind of made that known. I think the fan base has taken a cue from the organization and kind of gone from being on the fence with Daniel to being out on him when things go wrong. Like Leigh, he had a great game in Seattle. He comes home and the offense lays an egg in Cincinnati, and everyone's like, get this guy out of here, bench him, put Drew Lock in. And even who I'll be critical when it's warranted, but I'm sitting here on my podcast saying, whoa. Like, didn't you guys just say, hey, this guy could be our quarterback next year too, because of the game in Seattle? Like, you can't waffle back and forth like that.
Fickle fans.
Yeah. Like I think, but I do think that they're taking their cue from the organization. Also, again, 22 points per game on the road for the offense for the Giants, 9 points per game at home. And I do think, so the Minnesota opener that they had here, Leigh.
Right. But also I have to say, we did not know that Minnesota was the beast that Minnesota was when you had that game. So
nobody knew that, right?
Right.
And I think, so this is what happens when a lot of losing happens year after year too.
Yeah.
Last year, they lost 40-0 at home to the Cowboys in week 1. This year, they come back. Even though the score wasn't as bad, it was essentially as bad of a game. And Leigh, the important part here is that the fans in the stadium that day made very clear that they were almost like immediately out on the team, and especially the quarterback. Was the feeling of there were fans in a section near the press box chanting in the second quarter for Tommy DeVito in the first game. And
Tommy Cutlets, bring him back.
Right. It was alarming, but also unsurprising at the same time. But in other words, this is like the tense environment that the Giants and Daniel Jones specifically are walking into here. This is one element, though, of this game that interests me. I think that this could be the first home game of the season that Daniel Jones is not the player under the most pressure on the field. We know it's going to be Saquon.
Right.
Saquon.
So true. So
Saquon is going to be the guy that everybody's focusing on. So maybe Daniel can breathe a little bit, and the Giants and even Brian Daboll can breathe a little bit, and that actually helps them.
That's such a good point, because clearly that the home game issue, it has to be a mental thing. I don't think there's any way around that for Daniel Jones, at least. It has to be mental. So maybe that Saquon will take the pressure off. I'm hoping that Saquon can handle it and wants to pop off and wants to show off, and that'll be that. But it could easily go the other way, when you have so much to prove. It's more of a mental thing than anything else.
Yeah, I know how Saquon's thinking about this game, by the way, because I know him very, very well.
Tell me.
So when he got hurt in Chicago early in his career, he has told this story many times. Mm-hmm. He played the season opener against the Steelers at home, and it was one of his worst games. The Giants lost, and Saquon had, I don't remember the exact total. I don't know if it was 16 carries for 5 yards. It was something ridiculous.
Okay.
And he was so frustrated about that game and so determined to play better the next week. And that was actually a week that Tiki Barber in this market came out on talk radio and criticized Saquon for not pass protecting well enough.
Oh.
So Saquon went into Chicago like, I'm going to show the world that I'm, and he ended up hurting his knee. And he has said several times to us directly on the record that in hindsight, he felt like he put himself in a bad position by letting this intangible thing change the way that he approached the game. And so I know him. I know the way he's approaching this is he's trying his hardest not to be the bull, like snorting, right? With the red eyes, like, I'm going to run for 500 yards. That's what he wants to do.
100%.
But he's trying very hard to keep it even until he walks out onto the field, because in the past, he feels like he gets himself out of himself when he thinks otherwise.
So do you think that is a sign of like his growth and maturity overall? Yeah. Do you see a different player in him with the Eagles than the Giants so far?
Well, just like we were just talking about how, hey, if the pressure gets taken off of Daniel Jones by Saquon, maybe you can just see his shoulders go like this and take a breath. I mean, I know this is several weeks ago now, but watching that game in Brazil, I mean, holy cow, that looked like a different person. I mean, Saquon, the way that he was conducting himself, the way he was walking around, the way he was strutting, the way he was producing, that was not a different person, but somebody who was relieved to be where he is now, like where his feet are. Mm-hmm. I do think that the adversity that they are facing, the Eagles are facing and Philadelphia is facing right now, it's interesting because it's kind of similar to the adversity that Saquon has dealt with in New York in recent years. So I think that he's probably eager to get the team and himself out of that mental space and back into the space they were riding high coming back from Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I see a guy and a person who is happy. Mm-hmm. And I think, I talked to Dexter Lawrence about this yesterday. Dexter said that, selfishly, he's like, I didn't want him to leave, but he said, I'm happy for him if he's happy, and I know he's happy. So, and
that's the part that I feel like people don't understand, is that when you work with a team or you work closely with these guys, when they leave, your relationship doesn't end with them. You're still rooting for them, maybe not against your team, but you're still, I'm sure you were happy to see him do well,
Oh,
right?
100%. And he could have been, if he went to the Texans
Anywhere.
instead or
Yeah.
Chicago,
Right.
whatever. Yes, I was very happy for him,
Yeah.
especially because I felt like, and this is tied up into all the storylines that are coming out of here, especially
Mhm.
like Saquon's negotiations with the Giants became emotional. There was disrespect involved. He was on the record, complained about the Giants front office leaking misleading details about his contract back in the summer of 2023. So
Crazy.
there was a lot of like animosity and nastiness, and it became personal, like on both sides.
Okay,
And
so what we were seeing was real. Like what the outside was seeing was pretty real in terms
oh,
of the
well,
drama.
that's what I meant too about the
Yeah.
kind of seat of your pants emotional decisions. Like,
Yep.
Chris Rossetti in the Giants front office, I thought came out very even keeled and level headed. And he was the one telling Joe Shane in some of those scenes, like,
Mhm.
if you don't think this guy's market's going to be big, like you don't understand exactly like what type of player he is viewed as. And he was saying, and then Tim McDonald says, what is our offense going to be without him? I think Joe Shane in the end just didn't want him on the team. And, and frankly, on the other end, I think Saquon wanted to be on another team at that point because
Facts.
he didn't
Yeah.
like how it was being handled. So
Yeah.
by the end, yes, what we saw is what was happening. There was more to it. Yes.
Honestly, you can't ask for better reality TV than that. And that's coming from, I'm a Real Housewives watcher, so I know all the drama, and this was up there. I was like, this can't be all real. Like, are they really? What? And it was like all those guys, like Tim McDonald's and the guys, I feel like every time they spoke to that, every time they were speaking about it, they were like, they wanted to scream it. They had to say it politely, but they in their heads, they were screaming like, do you not see the writing on the wall? That was
right.
crazy.
Well, it was also, so on the one hand, it was impressive how transparent they were about everything that was shown.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, there were a lot of things that got out that it's fun and amazing and riveting television for you and me.
Right.
But if you work for the Giants, you're like, I don't know if I wanted that out there.
No, that is crazy. I wonder if they'll, do you know if they've been given another team for next season in the off season yet? I haven't heard anything.
Oh, I haven't heard that either. I'm not sure. I know they
You're
went
like, it's not the Giants, so we're good.
Right. Though I actually wrote this for the Daily News for tomorrow's paper. Especially if if Saquon runs wild and the Eagles win this, I think we need a bonus episode of Giants Hard Knocks.
Please run it back. Please.
I think we need John Mara. I think we need a camera following John Mara into Joe Shane's office on Monday.
That is amazing. You're so right. I hope they listen to you. Wait, I forget what else. There was another thing I wanted to ask you. Malik Neighbors. He practiced with a no contact red helmet yesterday, correct?
Red jersey, yep.
So that's what do we know how he's doing?
I'm on the verge of reporting to the second practice of the week today. And essentially where this stands is as you and I sit here now, I put this at, 60 he plays, 40 he doesn't. Why I say that is that it really just depends on if he woke up today here, Thursday, October 17th, if he wakes up on Thursday, October 17th, and the exertion that he had on the practice field yesterday, if he responds well to that physically, they will progress him in the protocol. And then eventually he'll have to put in a full practice, and then hopefully he gets cleared. But if he does not progress, they're not going to rush him. They can't rush him.
Can't, yeah.
And this was, and this was something I heard right at the beginning of this process. Listen, every concussion is different. This guy, this was a serious situation. I do believe he was knocked out when he hit the turf against the Cowboys. Not that indicates even necessarily the severity of the concussion, but he was unconscious on the field, I believe, there. And then also the week after, so it was a Thursday night game. By the time we got to Wednesday, so 6 days following that, he was still having symptoms. And so after that, the symptoms started to subside. He started to show some progress, but this has been kind of a gradual trajectory. And so there's a chance he plays in this game. Brian Daboll did say, he was strong enough to say, I'm optimistic, but it all just hinges on how he responds Thursday, Friday.
Depends. Yeah, those are so scary. I don't know why more people aren't wearing the Guardian helmets, but that's a whole nother conversation. I know you have things to do, but my biggest question is, your color palette for your outfit on Sunday.
I know I can't wear my green jacket. That's what I know.
No, you can't wear your
Yeah.
green jacket. You can't wear.
Green,
Like I
green
said
is
before, I
so
think
in right now, and I can't wear it this
It
weekend.
is. I know. This is, you want to wear this color. I know. I like you in pops of like the pastels. I liked you in the lavender. I like the pink ties.
Thank you.
That's just my opinion. But you've been looking great, and we're all looking forward to seeing your outfit.
Yeah, the short answer is I have not picked it yet.
When do you usually pick?
So if I'm organized enough, which is not as often as it should be, if I'm organized enough, I'm picking it on Saturday or Saturday evening. But I can be a game time decision guy. I don't mind doing that. And even like when I go travel, let's say when I go on the road,
right,
I like to, let's say I have a certain outfit, I might bring 2 or 3 ties, and in the moment I'll lay them all out. And in the moment, that's when I know which one I want to wear. You know, like I like doing that. It just how I feel in that moment. I don't want to go to, you know, Pittsburgh for Monday Night Football, only bring 1 tie, and then look at it, you know, 4 hours before the game and say, this isn't it, you know?
No, I think you need to bring us with you in that process. Like
maybe
an outfit of the day, tunnel remix. Yeah. Maybe show us the ties. Let us pick the tie.
I like that. I also, hey, I'm all for it. I also, you know, I really love, I could talk about this forever. I love it. I also love the button downs that now have like the accented buttons.
Yes.
You know, you buy those, you can wear that same shirt with a different outfit or the same outfit with no tie, and it looks like a completely different outfit. So you can rotate. You could wear something in August that you then run back with a tie in December, and it's a completely different outfit. You accent a little bit with the handkerchief, you know, so.
Look at you, the versatility of this. Should we plan to see you at the Met Gala?
Hey.
So it'll be you, Tyrod Taylor, and Joe Burrow with Anna Wintour at the steps of the Met.
As long as I'm not walking behind Tyrod, because if I like, he shows everybody up. I'm telling you, like when he signed with the Jets, there were 2 primary takeaways for people on the Giants beat. One was the Giants just lost a really strong backup quarterback. The other was the top fits for every week are now gone. We need somebody else to rise to the top for the Giants.
They're gone. They're in this state, but they're gone from you guys. Yeah, that's correct. Well, now that's your cue. You got to pick it up.
Yeah. It's I like that behind the scenes idea, the video behind the scenes. I like that.
I think we all would like that. It's so fun. We want to be part of this process. It's my favorite stuff.
You know what? Here's my idea right now. I'm gonna hire one. So Pierre is one of the photographers. He's the one who took the photo you just showed first of me walking down with the great lighting. That is like a professional shot.
That was wild.
I'm going to bring one of those guys with me. We're going to go to Salaretta's for Men in Midland Park, New Jersey. We're going to show me and all the guys there, Ralph and all the guys there picking out the outfit. And we're going to have you pick the tie. And then I'm going to go out there on Sunday and strut my stuff. How about that?
They'll all be waiting to see how it looks. I'm obsessed with it. That's a great idea. Great. Love it. Pat, thank you so much for being with us. You guys can catch Pat on the Giants Beat or Talkin' Ball with Pat on the Bleav Network. Good luck this weekend. Can't wait to see your outfit.
Thank you so much. Take care. Yeah, appreciate being on.